What's up, YouTube? This is Rules back again with another deck analysis. This deck is an expanded deck for Sableye Garbodor. Before I begin, make sure you slap a like on the button, comment, and subscribe for more videos. So let's get right into it. The first four cards are all Sableye. With the attack Junk Hunt, for 1 dark, you put 2 item cards from your discard pile into your hand. It doesn't sound that great on surface value, but we'll get more into the loop as we go on. This is a very, very good card, and we'll explain why in a second. And then we've got 2 Bunnelbees for the attack, mostly using Burrow. Discard the top card of your opponent's deck, but he has the Omega trait, Barrage, which lets you attack twice. So you can discard 2 cards, and there's also Rototiller, which lets you shuffle 1 card from your discard pile into your deck. You can use it twice, you can use Burrow once, Rototiller once, however you want to do that. We run 2, mostly using it for Burrow, but you can use it for Rototiller if you're in a pinch. The next card we're running is a 2/2 line of Trubbish Garbodor. Before I get into it, I would recommend running this Trubbish because it's got the attack garbage collection. Put a card from your discard pile on top of your deck and a 1 retreat. This one's not quite as good. It has 70 HP and a 2 retreat. I'm trying to get another one of this, but for the moment this one's not terrible, but this one's better. You're almost never going to use it, but just in case. Then we've got 2 Garbodor, which lets you, if this Pokemon has a tool attached to it, each player's Pokemon in his discard pile, hand, and in play has no abilities. So pretty much just shuts off abilities if you have an item card attached to him, or a tool card attached to him. So we run a 2/2 line of him just to shut off things like Blastoise Keldeo is very popular and expanded. The other big threats being things like Archeops is fairly popular. We can shut that off. Next we run 1 copy of Jirachi for the ability Stellar Guidance. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you get to search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your deck afterward. So it's a really nice card. You just play it down and search your deck for a supporter. Quick disclaimer, do not use Jirachi if you have Garbodor in play. You will not be able to get your supporter because Garbodor shuts off all abilities, not just your opponent's. So Jirachi is really nice though, 90 HP, which means he is searchable with a level ball. A little vulnerable on the bench, but that's not terrible. And then we run a card very similar to it, and that is Shaman EX with the ability Setup. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to your bench, to draw cards until you have 6 cards in your hand. That's very easy to just play it down early game if you need a few more cards, or if you haven't completely set up, or just to extend turns. It's a really great card. It's in almost every deck at the moment, and it should be a one of in this deck as well. Also, for you watching the quest for the Shaman, this is a proxy. This is not the real deal. I did not pull a Shaman off camera. As sick as that would have been, I'd rather pull it on camera. Next, I got 6 dark, just for the energy. I think that's a really good number. It's what most people are running, and I knocked my red dice off the table. Whatever. I guess he'll be out of the rest of this video. But 6 dark, no more, no less, in my opinion. I think it's a great number. Next, we run 3 copies of Professor Juniper. You can run Juniper or Sycamore since this is expanded, but I choose to run Juniper. Same with the Garbodor, you can run either Garbodor, but I like this one more, and I like Juniper more than Sycamore, so. I'm running 3 copies of Professor Juniper for the simple effect, just discard your hand, draw 7. It's great early game. Not so great later game, but it can sometimes just get you the cards you need. The next card we're running is 2 copies of N. This card, it forces both players to shuffle their hands into their deck and draws cards equal to the number of prize cards. This deck, if you haven't gathered this yet, is a milling deck. You are trying to deck your opponent out as fast as possible. So you're not taking prizes, which means N, you're always getting 6, and your opponent isn't getting very many, or is getting less and less throughout the game. To build off that, next card we're running is an Ace Trainer. This card almost never gets play except this deck, because you can only play this card when you have more prize cards left than your opponent. So you can only play it if you're losing, and each player shuffles his or her hand into his or her deck, then draws 6 cards. Then you draw 6, and your opponent draws 3. So it's kind of like N, except this card you can only play when you're losing, but you're pretty much always going to be losing the prize trade, or the prize card race anyway, because you don't take prizes in this deck. The next card, as I move these back, I run 2 copies of Team Flare Grunt. This card's really nice against Toad. It's really nice against things, really just discarding DCE, especially Toad. This is a very useful card. You just discard an energy card attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. It can be special or regular. So, a great Toad counter mostly, but among other things, it can beat stuff. Then, another Toad counter, we run 2 copies of Xerosic. It's about the same thing, but we get really hurt by Toad because the entire strategy of this deck is to get item cards. Toad shuts off items. So any Toad that hits the field needs to be eliminated immediately by Xerosics, Team Flare Grunts, Headringers, however you need to do it. That's how we're going to do it. Then we run 1 copy of Lysander. I'm debating taking this out for a copy of Full Heal. I'll talk about that later, but yeah, for now I run 1 copy of Lysander. You can just Lysander something heavy out, maybe a Blastoise or something while you junk hunt for crushing hammers and stuff to discard energy attached to the bench or something. Then to round out the supporters, we have 1 copy of Delinquent. Discard a stadium card in play. If you do, your opponent discards 3 cards from his or her hand. This is a great card. It gets rid of the stadiums, and if your opponent has a low hand, you can discard their entire hand. It's a really nice card for that reason, and that's why I have it in here. It's also great if your opponent has very few cards in their deck and you know they have an N or VS Seeker in hand. You can force them to discard it if they only have 3 cards in their hand. So it's a really nice one-of, and it can be really clutch in some scenarios. Next, I have 1 copy of Life Dew. I don't have the card at the moment. I'm trying to purchase one, but I'm trying to find one for the right price. If the Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out, your opponent takes 1 fewer prize cards. This is your Ace spec. You can only run 1 in a deck, but it's worth it because you can junk hunt to get this Life Dew back and reattach it. So you're pretty much just denying your opponent every prize they could want. The free prizes they do get are Shaman and Jirachi if they can Lysander it out, but they still have to deal with Sableye at some point and all these Life Dews, which is why Toad is such a problem and why we run 4 ways to discard DCE through item lock. The next card I run is 3 copies of VS Seeker. Almost every deck runs 4, but when you can junk hunt for more VS Seekers, it's not really that big of a deal only running 3. I was kind of skeptical at first and ran 4, but after extensive testing, I found that 3 is actually better than 4. And then the next card is really what makes this deck good, and that is 4 copies of Puzzle of Time. Mostly for the second effect, although you can use the first effect. If you play 1 of this card, look at the top 3 cards of your deck and put them back in any order. But its second effect, if you play 2 Puzzle of Times at the same time, put 2 cards from your discard pile into your hand. That's an amazing card or an amazing effect. You can just junk hunt for 2 puzzles, get either 2 crushing hammers or a crushing hammer and a VS seeker, whatever you need. You can just get 2 puzzles and then junk hunt back for the puzzles at the end of your turn. You are a little hurt to end, but you're not taking prizes, so your opponent's going to be a little hesitant to play end because they're not going to be drawing as much. The next card we run is 3 copies of Ultra Ball. This is a really nice card just to get out things like Shaman, Jirachi especially. Garbodor can also be gotten at with an Ultra Ball. And then the next card, 2 level balls. This lets you get everything except for Shaman and Garbodor. So you can get Sableye, you can get Bunnelbees, you can get Trubbish, you can even get Jirachi with this. So this is a really nice card. Just search your deck for a Pokemon with 90 HP or less and put it into your hand. Especially Jirachi early game is amazing. Level ball for Jirachi. The next card, Battle Compressor. Really sad we're losing this in the next rotation, but this is for expanded, so we're not going to be losing it. You just search your deck for up to 3 cards and discard them. This is an amazing card, and I'm a little sad to see it go, but this is great if you can get this off turn 1 and then discard like 2 puzzles of times, and then junk hunt for them at the end of your turn. It's a great way to set up this early, and some people run 4. I personally like 3. Sorry. Next I run 4 Crushing Hammers. Flip a coin. If heads, you discard an energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon. This can be basic or special, but this is a great card just because you can get 2 of them in the middle of your turn if you play 2 puzzles. It's great just discarding DCs. You can also discard regular energy, try to run them out of energy. It's a great Night March counter, among other things that you can beat with this, but I really like the 4, and I would not go any lower than 4. Next I run 1 copy of Enhanced Hammer, same reason, just it's an automatic discard of special energy. So you can't discard basics, but you don't have to rely on a coin flip. Next I run 2 copies of Head Ringer. If you can get this on a Seismitoad first turn, you pretty much win the Seismitoad matchup. It's pretty much that simple. If they can't item lock you first turn, you win. So Head Ringer is a very important card. You can also use it on Keldeos so they can't get down a Float Stone. And I really like Head Ringer, and I hope to see a reprint from it. Next we run 2 Float Stones. This is pretty much exclusively to affect Garbotoxin. You can attach it to like a Jirachi or Shaman, Bunnelby, something like that. But mostly it's for Garbodor. Just activating the Garbotoxin, because you do need a tool attached to activate the Garbotoxin ability. Then we run 1 copy of Dark Patch. Just attach a basic dark energy card from your discard pile to one of your dark type Pokemon. This is a great card. Just if you have an energy in the discard pile and need to power up a Sableye, then just play down a Dark Patch. Pretty simple effect, and that's why I like it. Next we run 2 copies of Trick Shovel. Look at the top card of either player's deck and discard that card or return it to the top of the deck. This is great for controlling your opponent's top decks. You're almost always using this on your opponent to try to discard, but you can also leave it there if you know they have a dead hand and you want them to draw into that card. It can be really helpful. So Trick Shovel 2 of is really nice. Just hope that one of them doesn't get prized. It's probably the best card for milling them out late game. Next we run 1 copy of Random Receiver. This is mostly an early game card, but you can use it late game. You just reveal cards from the top of your deck until you reveal a supporter card, put it in your hand, and shuffle the other cards back into your deck. This is a really nice one of. I might cut it out potentially if I find something else I'd rather use, but for now I like Random Receiver. And then finally, to round off the deck, we run 1 copy of Super Rod. Super Rod just lets you shuffle 3 in any combination of Pokemon or basic energy cards from your discard pile into your deck, just to help you from deck out. And you only run 4 Sableyes, so you kind of need to run Super Rod, and you can always junk hunt for it again if you need more Sableyes or energy in the deck. That'll be it for the deck. I'll take a quick overview of everything. If you guys want to see, that's everything in the deck. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. Thank you so much for watching. This is Rules signing out.